My wife said I was too controlling for asking where she goes at night, so I hired a private investigator. Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So, let's begin. My name is Marcus. When my wife called me too controlling for simply asking where she disappeared to every night, I knew something was seriously wrong. But what I discovered when I hired a private investigator to find out the truth made me realize she was absolutely right about one thing. I wasn't controlling enough. What happened next changed everything. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the person calling you controlling is really just upset that you're finally paying attention. When I think back to how it all started, everything seemed normal on the surface. Elena and I had been married for 5 years. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, and the connection was instant. She was funny, intelligent, and had this way of making everyone around her feel special. I was working as an engineering project manager, and she had just finished her marketing degree. We dated for 2 years before I proposed, and honestly, those early years of marriage were some of the happiest times of my life. But somewhere around year 3, things began to shift. It wasn't dramatic at first, just small changes that I told myself were natural parts of any long-term relationship. Elena started staying out later with friends. She'd mentioned going to dinner or drinks after work, which seemed perfectly reasonable. I never questioned it because I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, the woman I'd chosen to build a life with. The late nights became more frequent. What started as once or twice a week turned into 4 or 5 times a week. She'd leave the house around 7 in the evening, claiming she was meeting colleagues or old friends, and wouldn't return until after midnight, sometimes not until 2 or 3 in the morning. When I'd ask how her evening went, she'd give me vague answers. Oh, just catching up with the girls, or work stuff. Pretty boring, actually. I started to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. We barely spent time together anymore. Our conversations became surface-level exchanges about groceries, bills, and weekend plans that never seemed to materialize because she was always busy with something else. The woman who used to curl up next to me on the couch to watch movies was now treating our home like a hotel she occasionally slept in. One Tuesday night, I decided to address it directly. I wasn't angry, just concerned. I approached her as she was getting ready to leave again, putting on makeup in front of our bedroom mirror. I said, "Elena, I feel like we never spent time together anymore. Maybe we could stay in tonight, order some takeout, watch that show you wanted to start?" She stopped applying her lipstick and turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, almost irritated. "Marcus, I already made plans. I can't just cancel on people last minute." I tried to stay calm. "I understand that. I'm not asking you to cancel tonight. I'm just saying maybe we could plan something for tomorrow or this weekend." That's when she snapped. "Why are you being so clingy? I have a life outside of this house, I need my own space, my own friends. You can't expect me to sit here with you every single night." I was stunned. Clingy? For wanting to spend time with my wife? I'd never asked her to stay home every night. I'd never tried to control who she spent time with or where she went. I was simply asking for some balance, some time together as a married couple. But she made it sound like I was being unreasonable. "I'm not being clingy. I'm being your husband. We're supposed to want to spend time together." She rolled her eyes, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "Whatever, Marcus. I'll see you later." That night, she didn't come home until almost 4 in the morning. I knew because I couldn't sleep. I lay there listening for her car in the driveway, wondering what was so important that it kept her out until dawn on a Tuesday night. The pattern continued for weeks. Every time I tried to bring up my concerns, Elena would deflect or turn it around on me. If I asked where she was going, I was being controlling. If I mentioned that I missed spending time with her, I was being needy. If I suggested we do something together on the weekend, I was trying to isolate her from her friends. But here's the thing that really bothered me. She never invited me along. Not once. In 5 years of marriage, I'd met most of her friends. We'd all hung out together plenty of times. But suddenly, these mysterious evening plans never included me, and she never suggested they should. One evening, I decided to test something. As she was getting ready to leave, I casually said, "Hey, maybe I could come with you tonight. It's been a while since I've seen everyone." The panic that flashed across her face was unmistakable, just for a split second, but I caught it. Then she recovered and said, "Oh, it's just going to be girl talk tonight. You'd be bored. Plus, Sarah's going through some personal stuff, and she specifically asked for it to be just the girls." It sounded reasonable enough, but something about her delivery felt off. The way she couldn't quite meet my eyes when she said it. The way she seemed to rush through the explanation like she'd rehearsed it. That's when I started paying closer attention. I noticed she always took her phone with her to the bathroom now, something she never did before. She changed her passcode, which she claimed was for security reasons after reading some article about phone hacking. She started doing her laundry separately, saying she wanted to be more organized about it. Small things, individual things that could all be explained away, but together, they painted a picture I didn't want to see. The breaking point came on a Thursday night in March. Alana had left for another one of her mysterious evening plans, and I was sitting in our living room, trying to watch TV, but mostly just thinking. That's when I heard her phone buzz on the coffee table. She'd forgotten it, which never happened anymore. I stared at that phone for a solid 10 minutes, wrestling with myself. Looking at her phone would make me the controlling husband she had accused me of being. But the not knowing was eating me alive. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong. Finally, I picked it up. The screen showed a text notification from someone named Alex that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Same place as always?" My hand started shaking. I tried her old passcode first, our anniversary date. It didn't work. I tried her birthday. Nothing. Then I tried something that made my stomach drop. The date she started staying out late. It worked. What I found in that phone destroyed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Months of messages with Alex, photos I never wanted to see, hotel reservations, detailed conversations about when I'd be at work, plans for weekend trips she'd never mentioned to me, everything. But what hurt the most were the messages about me, how I was becoming suspicious and clingy, how she had to be more careful because I was starting to ask questions, how she wished I would just back off and let her live her life. I took screenshots of everything and put the phone back where she had left it. When Alana came home around 2 in the morning, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed next to me like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just spent the evening with another man. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think, to process what I had discovered. But more than that, I needed to know the full extent of what was happening. Because if there's one thing I learned from those text messages, it was that Alana was very good at hiding things. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. I found one through an online search, a professional firm that specialized in marital investigations. The consultation was awkward and humiliating. Explaining to a complete stranger that I suspected my wife was cheating made everything feel more real, more final. The investigator, a woman named Janet, was understanding but direct. "Mr. Marcus, I want to be clear about something. Once we start this investigation, there's no going back. Whatever we find, you're going to have to deal with it. Are you prepared for that?" I told her I was, though I wasn't sure I meant it. Janet worked fast. Within a week, she had a comprehensive report with photos, timestamps, and detailed observations. Alana wasn't just having an affair with Alex. She was living an entire double life. The photos showed her at restaurants I'd never been to, holding hands across candlelit tables, hotel parking lots with Alex's car parked next to hers, shopping trips where she bought lingerie with someone else's credit card, weekend trips she told me were work conferences but were actually romantic getaways.
But the most damning evidence was a recording Janet had made outside a coffee shop where Alana was talking to a friend. I listened to my wife's voice describing her marriage as boring and suffocating. She talked about me like I was some kind of burden she had to manage, rather than the man she'd promised to love and honor. "Marcus is getting suspicious," she said on the recording. "He keeps asking where I'm going and trying to get me to stay home. I told him he was being controlling, and now he's backing off a little. I just need him to stop paying attention long enough for me to figure out my next move." Her next move. Like our marriage was just an inconvenience she needed to navigate around. That evening, Elena came home from work acting completely normal. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day, and started making dinner like she was the perfect wife. Watching her performance, knowing what I now knew, was surreal. "How was your day?" I asked, sitting at the kitchen counter while she cooked. "Oh, the usual. Lots of meetings. Sarah's still having drama with her boyfriend." She said it so casually, weaving lies into normal conversation like it was natural. "Are you going out tonight?" I asked. She paused for just a moment. "Actually, no. I thought maybe we could have a quiet night in. Watch a movie or something." It was almost funny. Now that I knew the truth, she wanted to spend time at home, probably because Alex wasn't available. I played along. We watched a movie, made small talk, and went to bed together like a normal married couple. But lying there next to her, knowing where she'd been and what she'd been doing, I felt completely hollow. The next morning, after Elena left for work, I made a decision. I called my lawyer. If Elena wanted to call me controlling for asking basic questions about our relationship, I was about to show her what actual control looked like. Because here's the thing she didn't understand. I wasn't controlling before because I trusted her. But now that trust was gone, and with it, any reason I had to play the understanding, accommodating husband. I spent the day preparing. I copied all the evidence Janet had provided. I gathered our financial records, documented every joint asset, and started the process of protecting myself legally. If Elena wanted to destroy our marriage, she was going to find out that actions have consequences. That evening, Elena came home from work with flowers and a bottle of wine, talking about how she wanted to reconnect with me. It was pathetic, really. The guilty conscience hitting her just when I was done being understanding. "Marcus," she said, setting the flowers on our kitchen table, "I know I've been distant lately. I want to work on us. Maybe we could plan a weekend trip together." I looked at her standing there with her fake smile and her guilty flowers, and I almost felt sorry for her. She had no idea that her world was about to collapse. "That sounds great, Elena," I said. "But first, I have something to show you." I pulled out the folder Janet had given me and set it on the table next to her flowers. Elena's face went white as she saw the photos scattered across the surface. Her and Alex at dinner, her and Alex at hotels, her and Alex living the life she'd been hiding from me. "What is this?" she whispered, but we both knew exactly what it was. "This," I said calmly, "is what happens when you call someone controlling for caring about their marriage. You were right, Elena. I wasn't controlling enough. I should have been paying attention months ago." The rest of that conversation was exactly what you'd expect. Tears, apologies, explanations about being lonely and confused, promises to end it with Alex and focus on our marriage. All the standard lines cheaters use when they get caught. But I was done listening to her lies. "Elena," I said when she finally stopped talking, "I've already filed for divorce. You'll be served with papers tomorrow." The shock on her face was complete. She'd been so confident in her ability to manipulate me, so sure that I'd always be the understanding husband who trusted too much and questioned too little. "You can't be serious," she said. "We can work through this. People make mistakes." "You're right. I made a mistake. I trusted someone who didn't deserve it. But I'm not making that mistake anymore." The divorce process wasn't pleasant, but it was straightforward. Elena tried to fight it at first, claiming she wanted to save our marriage. But when her lawyers saw the evidence I had, they advised her to settle quickly and quietly. Alex, it turned out, was married too. His wife was very interested in the photos Janet had taken.
Elena's affair didn't just cost her our marriage, it destroyed his as well. Funny how that works. In the end, Elena got exactly what she wanted. Freedom from her controlling husband, and I got exactly what I needed. Freedom from a wife who thought marriage was optional when something better came along. Looking back, I realized the signs were all there. I just chose to trust instead of investigate. Some people would call that naive. I call it being a decent human being who expected the same in return. But Elena was right about one thing. I wasn't controlling enough. I should have been controlling enough to demand honesty, controlling enough to require respect, controlling enough to protect myself from someone who saw my trust as weakness rather than love.
If you're in a relationship where someone calls you controlling for asking basic questions about where they go and who they're with, pay attention. Because in my experience, the people who scream loudest about being controlled are usually the ones with the most to hide. Thank you for watching.